Well guys, it looks like Nintendo is planning to make some big changes to the Mario franchise and the lore that we've always known and loved. Now, I will say right off the bat, be careful if you still for some reason haven't seen the Mario Galaxy movie. There are going to be spoilers for that movie here because something that happens in that movie is the main plot point as to why we're even talking about what we're talking about today. Last chance, last warning, okay. So I made a video a couple of weeks ago talking about one of the biggest mysteries in the Mario Galaxy movie, and that was the new backstory they gave Princess Peach and Rosalina. Yes, in the movie, Princess Peach and Rosalina are sisters. That's a pretty big change from the games where they hardly even know each other in the video game, let alone siblings. So yeah, this is huge, and Miyamoto might have just confirmed that we can expect some big game changes and some other lore changes as well, because in a recent interview about the movie, Miyamoto stated, because we don't know what kind of game we'll make next with our characters. Having too many character settings would become a constraint. I'm fine with being bound by the gameplay, but I don't want to be bound by having created a story, which has been the reason for not making movies for many years. So before making this movie, I hadn't decided on the character's backstory, but now that I'm making the movie, it's become fun to expand on the character in various ways. Therefore, I would like to adhere as much as possible to the settings created in the movie in future games. Yeah, that's right. Miyamoto just pretty much came out and said, we're probably going to change some of the lore and some of the stuff in the games to match the stuff that they're doing in the movies. Now, a lot of people are very torn by this. I've already seen people online literally saying Miyamoto needs to just drop away from Mario and leave it up to Koizumi at this point. But yeah, people are not happy with Miyamoto, mostly because we know he hates story. There's other parts of this interview where he says that he's like confused by the bad reviews of the movie and stuff, and there's just a lot to talk about. That's for another video. But yeah, people are just upset with Miyamoto and his just focus on gameplay first, and it almost feels like gameplay only because he just hates adding story in Mario games. It's why he never wanted to make a movie in the first place. So now it begs the question, what changes is Miyamoto trying to make to the Mario universe and lore and stuff that he's going to include in future games? Because anything that happens in the movies can now be put into the games, and it makes a lot of sense when you look at the fact that so many of the games are being used as settings and cameos and for characters in the movie. Wouldn't it be nice if the movie also worked the other way around, influencing the games the way the games influence the movie? I mean, one thing that I've already been speculating about this next 3D Mario is it's been pushing for this open world since Bowser's Fury. It's felt like they really wanted to do that, and even with some of these giant open sandbox worlds in Mario Odyssey, like the Sand Kingdom, it kind of made me feel like they were going for bigger and better. And with Bowser's Fury, that's the first really open world Mario game we've ever gotten. And when you look at something like the Mario movie, something I've always thought would be so cool is to actually have a full Toad Town and Mushroom Kingdom and castle to freely explore. When you see Mario pull up to that giant Toad village, it's just so cool and there's so much to look at, and being able to explore something like that in a full-fledged open world 3D Mario has always been a dream of mine. So I'm hoping that aspect is brought over, but of course we're talking more lore significances right here. Like for instance, Peach and Rosalina being sisters. Is this something that they're now going to incorporate in the games? Well, what if I told you they've already kind of teased something like this? I made a video years ago when Princess Peach Showtime first came out, and one thing that I noticed is at the very end of Peach Showtime, there is a scene where Peach turns into Radiant Peach, where she gets this dress that is extremely similar to Rosalina. The first version of the dress already looks very similar to Rosalina. It's this kind of teal, aqua blue color, and she gets a big tiara and just kind of magical powers that she's never had before. Now, it's thanks to the sparkles and the theater itself that gives her this power. It's not like something that just came out of her, at least we don't think it is. It's hard to tell. This was just a very weird random transformation. She then gets a second version where her dress gets bigger, the tiara gets bigger, everything is bigger and bolder, and she reminds me a lot of Rosalina in this form. I mean, seriously, just look at the side-by-sides. The split in the center of the dress, the cuffs of the dress, the gem in the front by the neck, and even the shoes underneath. Shoot, we even get some small glimpses of Rosalina's mother, and she's wearing very similar giant pearl earrings to her mom's. We can even take it a step further. When Princess Peach takes out the Wicked Grape, the final antagonist of Princess Peach Showtime, she pretty much turns into a giant meteorite as she flies straight into her. Once again, this looks very, very similar to when Rosalina turns the Comet Observatory into just that, a comet, and flies it towards the center of the universe. In this form, Princess Peach can also have sparkle gems items flying out of her. But I could sit here and go on and on and on. I'll link the full video that I created so many years ago down below because so many of my predictions came true. I was actually predicting that in the movie they were going to do something like this in the future, and they absolutely did, making Rosalina and Peach related. So now I question, is this about to be reflected in the games the way Miyamoto seems to be hinting at? And I don't think this is where Nintendo's stopping. It seems like lots of their IPs with the Switch 2 era, they're almost like transforming them into new ways and changing the stories, even with the Switch 1 era as well. Look at Donkey Kong. For instance, you take a character like Pauline that's already been well established and now she's just in the game as a kid. There's no explanation why. We have no clue why Pauline is a child in Donkey Kong Bonanza. There's theories, of course, where people think it's Pauline's granddaughter or something like that, or some type of descendant, but it just doesn't make sense when you really start peeling apart the layers, because this also doesn't seem to be a time travel thing, because Cranky Kong is in this game and he even makes references about Mario. We've already made tons of theories about that, and just nothing really adds up concretely about who Pauline's supposed to be in this game. So this almost seems like a rewrite of her character. Pikmin 4 also kind of soft rebooted the franchise and kind of changed Olimar's story as if this was like the first time he's crash landed and went through this stuff, which is strange. They kind of just ignored the first 3 games even though this is called Pikmin 4, and it almost feels like they're retelling the story of Olimar and kind of rewriting the lore as we know it. Zelda has also been no secret. I mean, you look at the timeline, it's a jumbled mess, and this might be a way for them to fix the timeline by placing Breath of the Wild in its own separate pocket, almost restarting the timeline. So now you have Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom in its own separate place that's kind of rebooting the story and telling a new one. And I would not be surprised if Nintendo does this for every future franchise that's coming up, to establish a new future lore and story based around these characters that are not like decades years old. And I get that. I think that's actually fine. In fact, they just did it with Star Fox Zero on the Wii U, and they're probably going to do it again with an upcoming Star Fox because the rumors suggest a new Star Fox game is coming this summer. But my point is, I don't really understand why people are so mad at Miyamoto. I know he definitely needs to get past that phase of not liking story. You need story in video games. A lot of the time, it really does add so much lore and characterization to your characters and to the worlds. Like, it's fun. I love having story. I think that's why I love Super Mario Sunshine so much, is because out of all the 3D Marios, it's one of the few that actually has a pretty deep story, and deep in terms of Mario, you know what I mean? It's definitely different than the rest and just save the princess. But I'm totally fine with the movie influencing the games a bit. I think it's actually a good thing, and I think we could be seeing some really cool, more expansive worlds and some deeper story tied to some of these characters. I mean, making Peach and Rosalina sisters or some type of family in the video game would actually be pretty cool, and I would love to see how they're going to explore that with maybe a future game. So maybe the future stories of these games start expanding on who these characters are a lot more, instead of just saying, hey, Rosalina and Peach are just 2 princesses, one from space and one from the Mushroom Kingdom. But that's just me. I think it'd be cool, but let me know down below what you think about this. Are you against them changing the lore of the video games? Are you fine with it? Let me know down below, and I hope you all have a blessed rest of your day. See you guys.